The Miami, Ohio Redhawks were Mid-American Conference champions last season, and they're kicking off our MAC predictions for 2024. Losing to Toledo in the regular season, avenging that loss in the conference title game. They had 11 wins last year, the Chuck Martin's group. Well, this is a group that is poised and positioned yet again to be at the top of the MACtion pyramid in 2024. Can they repeat as MAC champions this upcoming season? Well, you're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to Prediction Season. It's where I predict all 134 FBS level college football teams. If you're a fan of a Power 4 team, well, you already have a video up on my channel. We're strictly Group of 5 from here on out, and I just want to thank you for all the love and support that Prediction Season has seen so far, and thank you so much for watching this video. Help support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine, and you can support the channel by pretty much interacting with it any way you can. Obviously, watching this video and all of my other prediction videos means a lot to me. Hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell, especially if you're as big of a college football nerd as I am, you'll want to hear what I have to say during the season as well. That means a lot to me. You can also like, you can comment, you can share, just interact with the channel any way you can. That helps to support it if you would like to do so. Really does mean a lot to me. Hey, we've talked about a lot of teams in the Group of 5 so far, but none of them have been from the Mid-American Conference. Well, that changes right now. MAC predictions are kicking off with the Miami, Ohio Redhawks, the conference champions from last year. How do we do predictions this season? We'll dive into the offense, dive into the defense, and then we'll dive on into the schedule and give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. There are a couple more things before we do start, because right over here will be the stats the team put up either offensively or defensively last season. And of course, for you fine people out there and for your viewing pleasure, right below the team's logo, I have put the team's coaching staff. We'll waste no more time. Let's dive on into talking about the Redhawks here in 2024. And the offense last season, well, none of those numbers are really going to jump out at you, right? They did not gain a whole ton of yards. They didn't score a whole ton of points. The passing game overall was pretty lackluster, and they just were not a great team on third down. However, that is overall. They really were a pretty solid offense for the most part in the Mid-American Conference this past season. Again, no, they didn't score a ton of points, but that's pretty typical from these MAC teams. You really got to look at the talent that is on this offense and defense, which we'll get to in a minute, to really judge how they're going to perform here in 2024. Well, you do get a quarterback coming back, but you do also have a quarterback leaving as well. Avon Smith is going to be leaving this team after the starting quarterback from last year, Brett Gabbert, who we'll talk about in a minute, went down with injury last year. It was up to Smith to pick up the pieces. 638 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks from last season, and actually ended up being the second leading rusher on the team. 280 yards and a touchdown on 75 carries from just a season ago. He is transferred over to Alabama A&M, so it once again leaves Brett Gabbert the starter for the Miami, Ohio Redhawks. 1,634 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions before he went down with injury last season. Did have 2 rushing touchdowns last year as well. And overall, I mean, you could definitely say why that was a lackluster season for Brett Gabbert. 2022, I believe he had some injury problems there as well. But 2021, look, he threw for 2,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, 6 picks, my apologies. You go all the way back to 2019. Sure, the touchdown interception number wasn't great, but he threw for 2,400 yards. Brett Gabbert's going to be a really good quarterback for the Redhawks again this season. That is what I fully expect. His final season of collegiate eligibility. He is staying with the Redhawks here. He wants to win another MAC title. And look, if he can stay healthy, he's got all the pieces to get back to 2,500 yards, even though the yardage was, let's say, wasn't there overall again because he went down with injury. The touchdown to interception ratio was, and he's got a lot of really good weapons this year. I expect Gabbert to have a really good season in 2024. Henry Heston and Maddox Kopp will be his backups this season. Running back room. This is where you start to take some hits, because not only did you lose your running back coach from last season, you also did lose your leading rusher from last season. That was Rashad Amos. He's now joining Lane Kiffin's squad at Ole Miss, and for good reason too. 210 carries, 1,075 yards last year. For all you math nerds, that's 5.1 yards per carry, and 13 touchdowns for Rashad Amos on the ground last season. Can also be a pretty solid, reliable option out of the backfield as well. They didn't really utilize him like that, but he definitely has the potential to do so. Only 6 catches for 37 yards last year. You also do lose Kevin Davis as well. Kevin Davis, only 25 carries, 96 yards, and a touchdown rushing last year, but was the team's 5th leading receiver with 167 yards and a touchdown. You lose both of those guys through the transfer portal, and again, your running back coach from last season gone as well. That's why there's only 5 coaches named down there. Because to my knowledge, wasn't able to find a running back coach. Hey, Red Hawk fans, let me know in the comment section down below. Kenny Tracy and Keon Mosey still do come back though. Tracy last season, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns on 46 carries. He averaged 5.4 yards per carry. I think he's going to be a pretty good running back for this team this season. Probably can definitely get to 1,000 yards this year. Mosey, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns last season. And you do get a transfer coming over for Purdue. Not a lot of transfers coming into this program, but this is one of them. Dylan Downing is coming into this program to give this running back room some depth. He may end up even playing second string minutes behind Tracy, who I think will be the lead back. If not, Downing may very well be that lead back this year. I don't think so. I think Kenny Tracy will lead the way, and then Mosey and Downing will pick up the slack in the running back room. Okay, rambling on a little bit here, so we'll run through the pass catching room really quickly. Gage Larvadain has used all the collegiate eligibility that he would like to use. He has no, my apologies. I'm looking at the wrong thing there. Gage Larvadain has entered the transfer portal, 679 yards and 6 touchdowns as the team's leading receiver last year. He's off to South Carolina. Joe Wilkins is the guy that has utilized as much collegiate eligibility as he would like to use. 4th leading receiver last year, has graduated, and you do lose Luke Bolden, who was graduated out of the tight end room from last season. So wide receiver entering this year, Cade McDonald and Javon Tracy, 2 guys that had over 300 yards last year, both of them hovering right around 350, 5 combined touchdowns between the 2 of them. They'll be your 1-2 in the wide receiver room this season. You also do get Reggie Virgil and a lot of other wide receivers coming back, but I got to mention some pieces that they are getting from the transfer portal. Andre Johnson is going to be coming in here to this team. He is coming over from Arizona State, and Cameron Perry, well, he is over from Indiana. So you get a couple P4 transfers coming in to play wide receiver for this team. They'll give a boost to this pass catching room. Tight end room, Nate Morsch, and hopefully I'm saying that last name right. He does come back. Jack Coldiron is back. And then you get some really good pieces from the transfer portal as well. Daniel Preston over from Florida State. And then you do get Connor Briggs, who I believe comes in from a JUCO background to play tight end for this team. And on the offensive line, I couldn't find the way that Sam Vaughn left this program. Red Hawk fans, let me know in the comment section down below. But he's still a loss on the offensive line nonetheless. So your offensive line in 2024, Will Jados, Charlie Nant, Colby Borders, Reed Holsky, Gavin Roars, John Young, and Eric Smith. Combination of those 7 guys will probably be your starting offensive line here in 2024. Again, if Brett Gabbert can stay healthy, there's no reason why this offense, at least statistically, shouldn't see an improvement this upcoming season. Now, Avon Smith was pretty good stepping in for Brett Gabbert last season, but Brett Gabbert, the experience, the decision-making that he possesses, takes this offense to some new heights. And as long as some of these transfer portal pieces can fit in well, again, Johnson and Perry, we'll see what kind of role they play. They might actually end up having some pretty big minutes for this team in the pass catching room. If the offensive line can gel, which it was able to do for the most part last season, it allowed 25 sacks last year. Maybe you improve on that. The main thing you got to worry about is the health of Brett Gabbert. As long as he stays healthy, I do think this is going to end up being a pretty solid offense here this season for the Red Hawks in 2024. When you move over to the defensive side of the ball, hey, look, I know the offense only gained around 323 yards per game, but the defense last year was exceptional for this Red Hawk team. They were one of the best third down defenses in the entire country. The points per game margin under 16, that's exactly what you like to see. They didn't even allow 350 yards per game last year. This really was a very good defense for the Red Hawks last season, and it's what helped them win a lot of games last year. Well, you lose a lot of talent off of a defense that, again, was very good last season. You got to start it with the defensive line, and probably one of the bigger losses here from a talent standpoint alone on this defense overall is Caden Woolard, who has decided to play college elsewhere in 2024. He entered the transfer portal, 41 tackles, 9.5 sacks last season. That led the team, and you're going to be losing a really good player of the defensive line in Caden Woolard. I'll tell you where he decided to play college here in a minute. He is going over to Oklahoma, 4-star transfer according to 24/7 Sports. Do have a couple guys that graduated, more depth pieces than anything, Austin Ertl and Anthony Collier, although I do believe both of them ended up getting some pretty solid production for this team last year. Ertl, not much of a depth piece at all. Collier was the more of a depth piece. I misspoke there. My apologies. 11 tackles for him last year. But Ertl, 39 tackles and a half a sack for him last season. So who returns on this defensive line? Well, Brian Ugwu does come back. Going to end up being a really big part to this defensive line again. He had 62 tackles and 8 sacks last season. He was tied for second on the team. Yes, there was someone else that had 8 sacks last year. We'll talk about him in a minute. Kobe Hilton, Corey Suttle, Nasir Washington, John Lacusa, Malachi Clark, bunch of other defensive linemen return. It's going to make for a really good defensive line for the Red Hawks here in 2024. No notable losses out of the linebacker room. How about that? And hey, the linebacker room had 2 guys that not only broke the century mark last year, but broke 120 tackles. One of them, you could argue, is one of the better linebackers in the entire country. It's Matt Salopek. 144 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 passes defended, 1 pick last season. He is an exceptional defensive player, and that is a huge get back for the Red Hawks this season, as well as Ty Wise, 122 tackles. That was the other guy that had 8 sacks last year. So yes, you lose 9.5 sacks of production when Caden Woolard is gone. You get 2 guys back that had 8 last year, and Ugo on the defensive line and Wise out of the linebacker room. He also had 5 pass defended and 1 interception last season, did Ty Wise as well. Corbin Hondrew, Oscar McWood, and a bunch of other linebackers returned, led by Salopek and Wise. It'll be one of, if not the best linebacker room, probably the best linebacker room the Mid-American Conference has to offer this season. Defensive back room, let's talk about it. Yasin McKee, well, he has since graduated, run out of college eligibility, at least utilized everything he wanted to utilize. 58 tackles last year for 11 passes defended, and he didn't even lead the team in pass defended last year. He did, however, lead the team in interceptions with 4 of them. Again, you will see no more of Yasin McKee this season. He has graduated, and Jeremiah Caldwell has entered his name into the transfer portal. Only 6 tackles for him last season. Safety room, you'll lose a good one. Michael Dowell is gone to the NFL, and for good reason. He was really good. 62 tackles, 5 pass defended, 2 interceptions last season. Really good safety that you will now see playing on Sundays. Jaquez Ware has entered his name. Jaquez Warren, should be an N there. Apologies for that typo, but Jaquez Warren has entered his name into the portal, even though you won't find it on 24/7 Sports. He is in the portal as far as my knowledge goes. 71 tackles for 4 passes defended last season, 3rd leading tackler, and DeJuan Mercer is in the portal there as well. More of a depth piece than anything last year, though. Only 3 tackles. So the defensive back room for the Red Hawks this season, Rayon Strader is going to be coming back to this cornerback room. 57 tackles, and he led the team with pass defended last year, had 12 of them to go along with an interception as well. Michael Yarborough and William Hardrick are both back in the cornerback room. Safety room, Eli Blakely does come back. He had 46 tackles last season. Silas Walters, Amby Caldwell, and Devin Johnson all return to the safety room. And kickers are people too. You got to show them some love, especially when you talk about a kicker that was as good as Graham Nicholson last season, an exceptional player who is now off to the Alabama Crimson Tide. You do get your punter and Alec Bevelheimer back, and a couple guys can be battling it out for the kicking duties. My apologies. And Dom Zobian, I hopefully said that last name right. Probably didn't, but hey, correct me in the comment section below. And Kellen McLaughlin, they both come back to battle it out for that kicking duties this season. This is going to be another exceptional defense for the Red Hawks in 2024. I mean, the defensive line is loaded. The linebacker room is probably the best the conference has to offer. Your defensive back room, I also still think, yes, you lose McKee, you lose Dowell, you lose some other depth pieces, especially with McKee, Dowell, and Warren, who's entered the portal. Some really important pieces there on the Miami Red Hawk defense from a season ago. But you still got a lot of very good pieces that I think are going to provide some really, really good defensive production for the Red Hawks this upcoming season. Now, when you take a look at the Red Hawks schedule, if the slide would change, it does this to me a lot. Hey, there you go. Any game at home will be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics or that slanted text. Any game in green is a game that I see the Red Hawks winning easily, while any game in yellow will be a close competitive game, but I still see the Red Hawks being able to win, and red is a loss. They start out with a game on the road against Northwestern, and look, you play 3 teams out of the Power 4 realm plus Notre Dame. I know Notre Dame not technically part of a conference, but they are a high major team. Obviously, I don't have to dispel my reasoning on that, but the Northwestern Wildcats, you give a lot of credit to what David Braun did with this team last season. And yes, going on the road here is not really going to provide any sort of advantage or disadvantage for Northwestern. Ryan Field is under construction. They sort of have this weird lakefront thing going on, the Wildcats here in 2024. regardless, I think this team has enough talent on it to, I'm talking about Miami, Ohio in this instance, to be competitive and pull away the win here on the road against Northwestern. I just don't see it happening. I think Ryan Braun is a really good head coach, and Northwestern may not win a lot of games this year. I think they're going to win this one. Miami comes up just short against Northwestern there on the road. Then they get their first bye week of the year before the Cincinnati Bearcats come into town. Now, what happened last year? Well, what happened last year was Miami had to go on the road, play in Nippert Stadium against Cincinnati Bearcats. Game went to overtime, and they came away with the win. How about that? They can come away with the win this year, especially with how good this Red Hawk defense is. But I am of the mind that the Bearcats improve from where they were last season. It definitely can be a team that can definitely reach their way into a bowl game. And the Cincinnati Bearcats did really good things in the transfer portal. I think they get their revenge this year. A very winnable game for Miami. Yes, I mean, they just beat them last season, and Cincinnati's still not going to be one of the better teams the Big 12 has to offer, but they will improve from last year, and I think that they do beat Miami this upcoming season. Going on the road against Notre Dame is going to be really, really tough. Yes, Miami's got a lot of really good pieces here, but again, Notre Dame, I think it's just a better version of what the Red Hawks possess. An offense that sure at times is probably going to see its struggles. It lost a ton of production from last season, including a lot in the wide receiver room. Sam Hartman is gone, but Riley Leonard does come in, so you have a very good, very experienced quarterback there. The offense for Notre Dame is better than what Miami possesses. The defense for Notre Dame is better than what Miami possesses. And you start off the year with 3 straight losses. Ouch. I mean, all of them really tough non-conference games against power opponents. You will get your first win of the year against the UMass Minutemen. The Minutemen are set to join the Mid-American Conference here pretty soon, so I believe in a couple years, maybe even next year, I'm pretty sure, this will end up being a conference game. Alas, it is not right now, but UMass, look, overall, is a team that just sits towards the bottom of the college football ranks. They are starting to climb that mountain. They're starting to get better under Don Brown, but still no match for this Red Hawk defense. And for Brett Gabbert, Miami gets their first win of the year, but the early season struggles continue. I think they go on the road and lose to Toledo. Now, they lost to Toledo in the regular season last year. Were able to avenge that in the conference championship game. And Toledo, look, does lose a ton of talent from last season, right? You do lose Penny Boone. He was a 1,400-yard rusher last year. Probably a guy whose name I should have mentioned first, DeQuan Finn. He is off to Baylor. But Jason Candle is still that head coach. Tucker Gleason is coming back at quarterback. Jacques Stewart's a very good running back. That I think is going to fit in well. You got a ton of wide receiver production coming back, some really good defensive pieces that is going to start mainly seniors in 2024. Toledo, again, will be one of the better teams in the MAC. Going on the road, I think that's a tough matchup. I think Miami loses that one there. But I think their fortunes get better here. On the road against Eastern Michigan, I think they are going to be a pretty solid team in the Mid-American Conference this season. Eastern Michigan's got some pretty darn good pieces, but they lose some really good pieces from last season through the transfer portal, and there are just a lot of things with Eastern Michigan right now. They're going to need some pieces from the portal to fit in offensively. Now, Miami going on the road, their early season struggles with as many losses as I've projected them to take. Could see them continue here as they lose another tough road game, but I think they get that win and things start to turn around for the Red Hawks from here. Ohio lost Nathan Rourke as well, or no, sorry, not Nathan Rourke, Curtis Rourke from last season. At the quarterback position, the C.A. Bangura is gone, and a ton of other talent from this Bobcat team last season is gone. They'll still be one of the better teams in the MAC this season, but no match for the Red Hawks at home. The Red Hawk defense takes over. They beat the Bobcats in Week 8, and they have their first win streak of the season, and they're not going to let it go to waste. They beat the Central Michigan Chippewas. Central Michigan is going to be one of those teams this year that I feel like is going to sit in the middle of the Mid-American Conference, and to me, they're one of the hardest teams in this conference to judge. They have some solid returning talent offensively, some okay returning defensive talent, and it was a team overall that was pretty solid last season. Central Michigan can go either way for me, but I do think Miami, being one of the most talented teams in the Mid-American Conference, having that game at home, they will be able to win. And I've already spoiled my prediction here for the first MACtion game. This is the Tuesday and Wednesday games that everyone knows and loves that sit on ESPN. This one, I believe, on a Tuesday in Week 11 against the Ball State Cardinals, and I do think that they win that game. Overall, I think Ball State's going to make some improvements from where they were last season. They got a couple transfers coming in, a couple positions, and I think some really good players coming in from or I should say on the defensive line through the transfer portal. But overall, I just don't think Ball State's going to live up to what Miami of Ohio is going to do this season. Kent State definitely won't. That's a team that's just going to continue to see their struggles this season. They lost pretty much everyone after Sean Lewis left, and I don't project them to, while I project them to be better, I don't project them to be much better this season. You got to, you stay at home here for your last true Maction game when you play, or a true Maction weekday game. This one going to be on a Tuesday against Northern Illinois, and the Huskies as well, going to be one of the better teams the conference has to offer. They got some really solid talent on it, but overall, I think Miami's defense is just going to take over against Ethan Hampton. Again, some really good skill position players, but the defense will be able to shut this Husky offense down. Brad Gabbert, the experienced quarterback, will take over. And then Bowling Green, also a team that I expect to be pretty solid out of the Mid-American Conference this season. Connor Bazelak is going to be coming back at quarterback, and a lot of players come in through the transfer portal, especially in that wide receiver room, going on the road, a spot where I could see Miami losing. But again, they're not letting the win streak go to waste. They finish off 8-4, lose one game in conference play, and with a record like that, with a team like this, especially with what they have returning defensively, I expect the Red Hawks to be right back in the Mid-American Conference Championship game. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. We'll move on to UNLV in my next video. Goodbye.